Hello everyone, welcome to the week 7 activity. So this is going to be the last activity for the chapter 4 and 5, visual elements and principle of design. So this week we're going to look at emphasis and repetition and rhythm. So first thing I want you, so these two look like these little 6 boxes, so 12 boxes in total. So first we're going to take a look at the repetition and rhythm. So I want you to create your own rhythm using line, shape, and your choice. So first thing that I want you to try is establishing repetition in these three first squares, and then second and then these second row you're gonna use that repetition to create some kind of rhythm. So let me show you an example. So first line, the first thing that I can think of is just diagonal lines, something like this. Something really simple. It doesn't have to be really complicated. I'm just gonna use a ruler so that I can make it prettier. I'm an artist after all, Alright, so I created this really simple kind of a line repetition, but this is kind of boring, so I'm just gonna color it. Oops, sorry. It's red, yellow, green. I'm gonna use these three colors. Alright, so I created this repetition of these lines and also these colors as well, but as of like this, there is some kind of a rhythm, but this is very static rhythm. So for the second box, I want a little bit more dynamic rhythm to it. So let's think about how we can achieve that. So instead of going just one direction, I might create some kind of zigzag, movement, or I could exaggerate the scale, the size of these lines to create this kind of expanding and shrinking rhythm within the work. So let's just go with the simpler one. So I'm gonna go with the second one. So first I'm gonna start with the really thin line. Alright, so by expanding some of the line and shrinking some of the lines here, I was able to this kind of a contracting and expanding rhythm within the composition, even though I used very similar repetition as this. Oh, I forgot to color it right there. So this is something that you can do. So another thing that I could have done is I could have make it like a zigzag line where it shows more movement within the composition. So when it comes to rhythm, movement is everything, visual movement. So I know there is not much movement going on in this composition, but still you can see how the line is getting wider and narrower to create this kind of a movement within the overall composition. So second, we're gonna use the shape to create some kind of a repetition or pattern, I'll say. So what should we do? I'm gonna go with circle. Circle. Yeah, circle. Alright, so now I created this repetition of circles, but like I said, this is kind of boring. So let's give it a little bit of some kind of movement within the composition. So Alright, so I just kind of like shifted around to create this kind of a movement within the composition instead of this really static repetition. Here, I'm gonna use the color red to kind of guide, because red is most eye-catching, gonna guide the movement within the composition. Alright, so by shifting these shapes of location here and there, I was able to create more of this kind of visual movement within the composition. So for the second one, I want you to come up with your own combination of line, shape, or text even to create a repetition and then create a rhythm using that repetition. So I'm gonna leave you guys for that. And then the second exercise, we're gonna use the similar design here. So in this case, this line. So we're gonna think about how we can achieve emphasis by placement and location. So first we use the lines. So how can we use this kind of a line to achieve an emphasis? Well, that's not an easy one. So let's think about how we can approach this. So I'm gonna go with something really simple, maybe. Alright, so I created this kind of a set of line, but I'm gonna create an emphasis in the center line right here. By placing the right in the center of the composition, I can achieve an emphasis. I know that I'm also using the emphasis of proportion as well, but here the location is more pronounced. Achieve this repetition. I mean emphasis. And also, I'm gonna help the power of color to emphasize my element a lot more. Alrighty. And then next thing that and then the second one, I want you to explore one more time using the line. So here I'm not too sure what you can achieve, but I would experiment with something like cross-hatching pattern, maybe. Something like this. And like again, I'm gonna use the power of color to create an emphasis in this center point right here. This is looking good. And second is the contrast. So here we're gonna use the shape to create some kind of a contrast. So contrast is not that difficult actually. So we talked about there is contrast in scale, contrast in shape, and contrast in color. So here I might use, because since we used the color already, let's use contrast in scale and shape for those two. So scale, I feel like scale is going to be kind of different, difficult, so maybe not. Alright, so I created this kind of a pattern here, and I created this box much bigger compared to these elements. So this like proportion actually, but here as well. I'm going to use the power of contrasting color to give it a emphasis in this red box right here. Alright, so here we created this box. We used the contrasting scale to create this emphasize. At the same time, we're also creating this place and location to emphasize, because we just shoved this into the top left corner, and then everything was set to the bottom right corner. And also we used the power of contrasting color to even accentuate the emphasis on this red rectangle right here. So for the second one, I want you to create your own design, another design. I'll say not your own design, another own design. And the third one, we're gonna take a look at the proportion. So here we're already exploring the sense of the proportion, the principal design of proportion, because this red box is a lot bigger than other boxes in here. But so you could be doing kind of a similar thing here again, but I want you to make your design a little bit simpler, and then really accentuate, really isolate on the idea of proportion. So one thing that this is going to be rather simple, so I'm gonna use the circle here. Now that I created these two circles, I'm gonna use red color to this smaller circle right here, and yellow, which is rather weakest color among three. And then I'm gonna use green. Alright, so by doing so, I was able to create this really strong emphasis in this smaller circle because one, I assigned the red, which is the strongest, most vibrant color among these three, and also this is dwarfed by this larger yellow circle. So you could say this is more there's a stronger emphasis here rather than the red circle. But when I look at it, my attention goes first to the red circle, so I would argue that this one has a heavier visual weight than this, but you know, it's very subjective, so you could say something else. So you can think about how you can express the sense of proportion in the second here one more time, using either line, shape, or anything like that. And also for this exercise, you don't have to be bound by the line, shape, or anything like that. You can use lines or shapes or text or anything that you want to do. So that is it for this week's exercise. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And yeah, so if you have trouble printing out these worksheets, you can always get a piece of paper and then just draw these squares and then work on it. So not having a printer is not an excuse for this exercise. You could go to school's library, or you could go to FedEx or Office Depot to print this out, or like I said, you can just draw this out and then submit it, and I'll still accept that. So make sure to turn this in on time, and if you have any late works, make sure to turn that in by this Friday. So this will be ready by due by next Friday, which is 26. So you guys have a lot of time to work on this. And yeah, so I'll see you guys on next week's lecture video.